Okay, I'm Inspector Ken Thrower, Thrower. I'm the commander of the Traffic Section, Calgary City Police, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Inspector, they said the reason for the photo radar spike had to do with the weather and the new units. You had 4 new vehicles. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, the weather is definitely a factor. I mean, let's face it, in Calgary, we've had a dream winter last year, 2015, at the all the way through the summer to the winter months, and that is definitely a contributing factor. Also, the fact that we met the demand of complaints and issues from public meetings, communities, concerns. So, along with the weather, addition of vehicles and resources, and really getting down to the complaint areas. One thing we did last year in particular too was to get into the residential areas, playground zones, areas that even around in and out of around traffic circles, any areas that we had statistics to show there was collisions or possible collisions and concerns of citizens on roadways that they thought may be too wide, too narrow, whatever it may be. So we kind of refocused last year, and the weather definitely was a factor in some of the high speeds that were attained in some of the areas.
Is that because there's less snow or something, or what
Yes, when you have automated vehicles out there, let's face it, winter's gone by when it's minus 32 and the roads are all icy, the speeds are a lot down. A lot of cases are way below the speed limits, so of course enforcement is going to be down. There may be more collisions or whatever may happen there, but when you're looking at speed as a major factor on saving lives, when you look at that, the slower the vehicle, the higher the rate of survival by someone else in the vehicle. Vulnerable persons on the roadway would be pedestrians, people on bicycles. And that's another factor. When you look at the last year, you have a lot of bicyclists that rode the entire year. Some do anyways, but last year more people were on the road walking, riding, pretty much looking at June, July activity throughout the year last year. And that's one of the reasons, too, we probably received more complaints, more talk at community meetings to make sure we get enforcement out there. And that's one thing I can tell you we saw from the communities. They really looked at and were asking for more automated enforcement. They understand the resources. They understand it's great to have a police officer out there when you can. And that's one of the things we prefer to do is have police out there in a combination with automated, because it is about education. It is about saving lives. And in the end, really, from the traffic and all the members of Calgary Police who work patrol, our whole goal is one fatality is too much. One injured person is too many. So the whole idea is to reduce speed, give people a chance to see and negotiate road conditions, things that may happen if it's raining or it's foggy, or unexpected situations where we do have pedestrians may walk out or that. Then you want your survival rate to be higher. So basically, in the end, we want everybody to respect everyone using the roadway around the roadway. So I think a combination of all those for 2015 is one of the reasons why you saw a spike in the enforcement.
So if it's about education, do you think that message is getting out if we're seeing these numbers increase? Like, why are people still speeding?
So when you look at that, our statistics show on automated, you may get a ticket the first time, maybe the second time, but very rarely the third time. We don't have repeat offenders after the third and fourth time. They may get caught the first couple times, and then, like I said, the third time it diminishes to almost like way under like 3% of people get caught the third time.
So you think it is working in terms of what it's trying to achieve?
Well, the statistics show that, and we do see that people do slow down at intersections before they get there, and people say, well, that's defeating the purpose. Well, my answer to that is anytime people are slowing down, that's a good thing, particularly at intersections. We want people to be aware and look at your speedometer and be aware out there. And really, it's a choice out there. If you decide to speed because you're late and you're not paying attention, you become a danger on the road. And never mind to yourself, but everyone else on that roadway. So the whole idea of enforcement, now there's also educational programs that go through the schools, that talk to the children. There's education when you get stopped by a police officer. Talking to the folks here, media, we do lots on traffic to get that driven home. And really, if I can get rid of all my automated vehicles and I don't have to write any speeding tickets, then we're starting to accomplish the ultimate goal. And really, you saw on the weekend there was a fatality. It's a horrible, tragic situation. And, you want to make sure that everyone's properly driving on the road, paying attention, and speed is always a factor on is a person going to survive or not survive in a lot of cases.
With the fine revenue, so the amount's just shy of 50 million. Can you tell us what that money goes?
Well, a good portion of that, over 40%, goes to the province for victims. So that is delegated through the province, and the remaining goes to the base police budget.
Inspector, just for audio sake, can you just say the numbers of the spikes, if you don't mind? If you have those in front of you.
I think the numbers themselves, or just the percentage of 47% increase. Yeah, it's 47% increase from the previous year. But if you go back some years, you can see there's always dips back and forth. And, some of those are factors on different things. Last year, I can tell you, too, our automated sites, there was quite a few down the years before that. So one thing we did do is we had a lot of road work to get those back up, because there is speed sensing devices in the road. So when the weather's good, we can do construction year round. So when you look at the 52, 53 sites that we had more operating last year than we did the previous year, because we're able to get out there, have construction, get them worked. Plus, when you get those, and we all know in Calgary, one day it's plus 10, next day it's minus 30, those upheavals in the roads always disrupt those intersections and some of the automated enforcement. So there's also a factor when the roads aren't upheaval, people can unfortunately sometimes drive faster, but our devices aren't down, they're actually all working. So that's also a factor in the increase.
So when there's an increase like this year, and then 60% of the money goes back into the police budget, is it then doled out into specific education, or it's just what happens when there's
that is determined with the police commission and the executive on how that's actually going to get dealt out. And every year it's going to be somewhat a little bit different depending on the needs of the service and the needs of the citizens.
And what's your response to those people? It happens every time we have this conversation. You say it's just a cash grab.
Well, you know what? It's about a choice. If you don't speed, I can guarantee you don't get a ticket for speeding. If you slow down an intersection, you don't get a speed on green, and chances are you're not going to get into a collision. And if you do, chances are it's just going to be damage to the vehicle, because really, we all know vehicles and property can be replaced. But, looking at the weekend, Easter weekend, and fatalities and a couple of pedestrian accidents, those are just too many. I don't know about you, but those concern me. Anything above zero concerns me. That's what our job is. Our job's not really to get numbers. And like I said, if I could, we get it down to zero and I can deploy all the people in the traffic section to other areas, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Because really, you listen to the citizens, and that's what this is about. The citizens in the communities are talking about people speeding on their streets, speeding in their areas, that disruption. They may not feel safe, and we want to answer that. And part of it is enforcement. Other parts are the education pieces out there. Like I said, going to the media, education through the schools, AMA. There's lots of programs out there to try and make people aware. And we know people are busy. It's a busy city. We have over 1 million cars registered in the city. So there's a lot of vehicles out. There's a lot of traffic, and even then we've seen in the last little while. You look at the statistics, we have dropped from when 7 last year, 7 before, and 10 before that. And like I said, it's showing that we've had a reduction of those 3 fatalities. Well, those 3 lives, there's no price on those.
Inspector, are there any like 1 or 2 main spots where this is happening? Perhaps a couple of communities where you're seeing this more than others, even in this kind of 47% jump. I mean, I'm sure it's all around, but are there some spots that are worse than others? Not really,
and a lot of the times, going to the complaint areas to make those citizens feel good about what's going on out there, because they may have seen that one car speeding, and we go out there and try and determine, is this a real problem? Do we need, and we work with the city very closely. We work with them on the pedestrian strategy. We work with them on road design, signs, so we work very closely with the city to try and make sure that we've got all the bases covered, because we're all trying to work for the same thing. I think every citizen is working towards the same thing. They want to get somewhere, but they obviously want to get there safe. No one wants a phone call or a police officer knocking at their door at 2:30 in the morning to pass on some bad news. And I know the officers have to do that, and it's absolutely horrific. So there's no real area out there specific. And you got to remember, the city, Calgary is a very large, sprawled out city with some pretty quick roadways, and then you go down to slow residential areas. So it's an issue where we want to try and get that enforcement out there, and that's one piece that definitely is shown with the statistics. By going down after one or two times, those repeat offenders are not there.
Inspector, when we see officers set up, in the same spot frequently with the so-called radar trap, a lot of people might say, well, if they're there all the time, why don't they do something to improve the signage or the safety of that area if there are so many speeders? What would you say to people who kind of say that about speed traffic?
Well, and that's something that's evaluated. We work with the city to evaluate, is there something wrong with that road design? Is there something that needs to be changed in that? Do the speeds need to be changed out there? And you're right, you will see them in certain areas that are, unfortunately, you look at the Ring Road, and there's some high-speed areas, maybe going downhill, and again, my answer to that is, as a driver, that's the speed limits are there to be under that speed limit. Doesn't mean, okay, I'm at that speed and I want to go faster. And I don't know about you, but anyone in this room, if you've ever had to pull over on the side of Deerfoot and get out of your car, it's a horrifying experience because cars are going down there. And we enforce all the fast roadways, but again, we're looking at those ones, but we're also trying to focus on the residential, those vulnerable areas, the areas where there's playground zone and school zones, and the change of the signs also has caused some people not to understand that. And again, when you see a sign, you got to slow down to 30K regardless. There's no speeding there. You know what I mean? You just want to make sure. So that's one way to make sure to try and get that compliance, regardless of what you or may think. There's a lot of studies behind that with the engineers on the speeds to try and reduce that. But again, we work with the city on several committees to try and look at that because we want to improve. Obviously, we're not there yet because we want to be at 100% compliance.
Just for clarification, how many automated vehicles do you have, and how many did you have last year?
We had 6, and we went to 10.
And Inspector, you mentioned that it crashed yesterday on Glenmore a couple times. Do you have any update in terms of charges or how victims in hospital are doing?
No, except that the driver of the offending vehicle was charged with impaired driving, and there was, driving behavior out there that was showing that it was reckless. So the charge is still under investigation, so officially charges have not been concluded on that. But again, there's a situation. Alcohol definitely a factor. Speed on that roadway can always be a factor because to get catapulted across the street after a collision would say that I wouldn't say that it was way over the speed limit, but it was enough that it wasn't way under, let's face it, because if you have those slower speeds, you're not going to have that sort of collision that goes into the other opposite traffic.
Inspector, you mentioned the communities quite a little bit, the playground zones, school zones.
Yes.
When you look at both the highways, because obviously going 130K in Deerfoot and going to 50 down in a playground zone, they both have the risk. Is one of those two getting worse, like significantly worse in over the last year or so? Would you say that as you've studied this that it's getting much worse on the highway side or much worse on the playground zone?
I wouldn't say it's much worse because it's hard to determine exactly because, like I said, we've enhanced and we've kind of deployed differently our traffic resources in the last couple of years to try and meet that demand. So is it because we're discovering more of it? It could be part of it. And again, going back to, let's face it, when it rains, people slow down. When it snows, people really slow down. And we've had a year, 2015, that virtually you could drive your convertible with the top down almost 365 days of that year. So those are factors. And let's face it, the summer months when the roads are good, when the roads are bad, people are really paying attention. They really kind of grip down a little bit and they're looking around. And when the roads are nice, sometimes you don't look at I've stopped many people on different areas and they're speeding 20, 25 over. And honestly, they have no idea how fast they're going. They're just looking at the traffic and they're going. So that's why the speedometer is in there. You got to look after your own speed. You have to be responsible, and it's your decision. We wouldn't be having this discussion if you decide, I'm not going to go over the speed limit. We're not having this discussion.